Did a woman see a black portal open on her family farm in Missouri? This case appeared on Coast to Coast Radio on November 28, 2014. The witness, a woman named Mary, had traveled from Chicago to visit her mother on her family farm in Missouri. On the night of May 19, 2004, Mary was washing dishes at the kitchen sink. It was late and everybody had turned in for the night. In front of the sink was a very large window that Mary could peer out of. She recalled that there was a huge pole light between the house and the barn. The barn was about 60 to 80 feet away from the house. So I'm doing dishes. I look up and I notice like a perfect square on the side of the barn. I'd say it was about 7 feet square. I'd say it was about 6 feet up off the ground, and I look at it and I just look. And all of a sudden, all that goes through my head, and it's not a voice, it's just what happened. It was just, you don't need to see this. I wasn't afraid, but it was menacing. Mary claims that she went into the living room and sat down and turned on the TV. As she sat watching the television, she suddenly became jolted by the reality of the situation and what had just transpired. I'm sitting there and I went, what the heck was that? So I go back and it's still there, and I keep looking out and it doesn't change. It's completely dark, coal black. You can't see the side of the barn through it. So this happened about 3 or 4 times where I keep looking at it and this voice or something tells me, don't look at this, go away. So then I went back into the living room and forgot about it and watched TV for about a half hour and went back to see if it was still there, and it was finally gone. With that, Mary got up the nerve to go outside. This was after she had turned on all the available lights. Whatever it was gone, and no matter what she tried, she simply could not recreate what she saw. There was no object that could cast any kind of shadow, and to this day I have no idea. All that is between it is grass. I told this to my family. They all think I'm crazy, and I'm like, I know what I saw and I know what I felt. It wasn't voices in my head. Something said, you don't need to see this, you better go away. Mary described the object as square and totally black. She claims the entire event from the first sighting to the final check took about a half hour. As soon as I saw it, I'd just leave the kitchen and go watch TV, and then I would just sort of remember. This thing is on the side of the garage, and I'd go back to see if it was still there, and it was still there. And then I'd have the same thing happen again, this feeling of, like, don't look at this. But it wasn't for me. I wrote it down because I thought I was losing my mind, and I have it documented. Upon looking back, Mary did not believe it would have been someone pulling a prank. I went out the next day to see if there was paint, if someone pulled a trick on me, but we're talking in the middle of the country. I would have heard a car or people, and there were dogs too. The dogs didn't wake up. Nothing woke up. Over the years I have read about other cases in which witnesses described seeing hovering black cubes. Personally, I do not know what they are. Spaceships, portals, doorways into other dimensions? Albert Rosales knows of at least one investigator who has compiled hundreds of similar cube reports. The detail I found most interesting was how the witness seemed to be manipulated by the cube to stay away until it had completed whatever task it was trying to accomplish. It was as though anytime she laid eyes upon the square, she would be mentally encouraged to look away. However, her ability to periodically snap out of this trance-like state and return to the window suggests that the beings, or whomever, only had so much power. Granted, it is possible that another force, not associated with the cube, had intervened to possibly save her life. On the other hand, who knows? One of the strangest cases ever to come out of Newfoundland involved a man named John who claims he observed beings, possibly time travelers, outside his home. This case was reported to the National UFO Reporting Center. It was August 22nd, 1993. A man in Cape Spear, Newfoundland, was at home watching television. It was very late. John remembers that he casually glanced at his clock and noticed the time. It read 3:35 a.m., and then back towards the television. At that moment, he noticed odd lights in front of the hill opposite to his house. About 100 yards away, there sat an object at an altitude of roughly 150 feet, much lower than any plane he had ever seen flying before. Even stranger, it was moving very slowly, much too slow for a plane. Upon focusing on the object, John could make out that it had huge lighted windows, 13 in all, along its side that appeared to be about 8 feet wide and 6 feet high. Each had round corners and they were approximately 6 feet apart. Curious and eager to get a better look, John went to his bedroom and retrieved a pair of binoculars. Looking back out the window, he noticed that the object had moved parallel to his position towards the ocean. Even with the binoculars, it was impossible to see the outline and therefore the shape of the object. This seemed to really disturb John for some reason. The windows were, however, highly visible due to a bright light that appeared to be coming from inside, though the source of the light could not be seen. From there, John pried open the living room window and was shocked to discover that the object was not emitting any sound. It was completely silent. As he peered through his binoculars at the craft, he realized that he could see people at the left side of the object sitting at tables that were in every window. There were also 3 or 4 people walking to and from the front and rear of the object, sometimes passing as groups without having to make room. There were tables on the other side as well with people sitting at them, mostly 3 to 4 people at a table. Everyone was dressed exactly the same, gray uniforms with high collars, which reminded John of something out of the American Civil War era. None of the people had any hair on their heads, and none wore hats or helmets of any sort. They all appeared to be very similar in size and slightly built. They were also very pale. From what John could tell, most of the people sitting seemed to be engaged in drinking from extra large white luminous cups. One group, however, were staring continuously down at the table as if they were watching something that could not be seen by John. By this point, John was growing increasingly more terrified at what he was seeing. It was simply too bizarre. He was shaking and sweating profusely and was having trouble holding the binoculars. He was also having difficulty swallowing. He watched as the object moved slowly out over the water in the direction of Conception Bay, eventually disappearing from view. So what exactly did John witness that August night? Albert Rosales, author of the Humanoid Journals, believes, given the Civil War era style of clothing worn by the beings, as seen by the witness, that they might have been time travelers, possibly returning from a visit into the past. On the other hand, it's possible that John witnessed an alien grand tour of Earth, a type of vacation cruise getaway for beings from either the farthest reaches of space or another dimension. At no point did John indicate that the beings took notice of him. One has to wonder what might have become of John had he been spotted. Would he even be around to tell his story? In the end, I thought it was just a really weird, interesting UFO story, and I thought I would share it with you guys. Anyways, until next time.